you have to go. I got you all set up and ready to go, Lynn, so.
Oh, it really does, yeah. Lynn, you got
Therefore, I will concentrate my thoughts for 30 minutes daily upon the task of thinking the person I intend to become, thereby creating my mind a clear mental picture of that person. Third, I know that the principle of model suggestion, any desire that pursues my whole mind, will demonstrate the pressure of the opposite access. Therefore, I will devote 10 minutes daily to man myself to balance self-confidence. Fourth, I have clearly written down my description of my definite achievement in life, and I will never frustrate until I shall Fifth, I fully realize that no wealth of resolution can long endure unless built upon truth and justice. Therefore, I will engage in no transactions for the benefit of all men. I will succeed by exacting myself the force I to use and the cooperation of other people. I will do others serve me because my willingness to serve others. I will eliminate hatred, envy, jealousy, selfishness by developing love for all humanity. Because I know that a negative attitude to others will never bring me success. I will constantly believe in me because I believe in them and in myself. I will sign my name in this formula, commit it to memory, and repeat aloud once a day with full faith that will gradually influence my thoughts and actions. So I will become a self-reliant, successful person. Hoorah! Alright, 12-step formula. This is the 12-step formula minimum standard which, when followed in seconds, guarantees 24 plus transactions annually and unprecedented personal growth and achievement. 1. I dedicate 1 hour daily towards building and protecting my self-confidence. 2. I practice and internalize my self-skills for a minimum 1 hour a day. 3. I contact my sphere of influence by mail, by phone, and/or in person, and by email. 4. I make a 100 contact per week, 30 plus per week, by phone or in person. 5. I follow up my confident leads daily. 6. I set 5 plus new appointments a week with buyer sellers. 7. I completely pre-qualify 100% of my appointments. 8. I have appointments to take. 9. I call all my sellers weekly to install listings every 3 weeks and 5%. 10. I sell 75% more of my listing inventory. 11. I will return every signed call, contact every buyer within 2 hours of my inquiry. 12. I only work with high qualified buyers who have pre-qualified with a mortgage lender and have signed a buyer broker agreement. Earn more commission less time with less energy spent. I recognize success comes from success open and loud. Therefore, I commit to following every step to follow from success to success. Hey, Tony Robbins. Now I am the voice. I will lead, not follow. I will believe, not doubt. I will create, not destroy. I am a force for good. I am a leader. Defy the odds. Set a new standard. Step up. Step up. Opening affirmations. I'm a professional person. I use information that my clients achieve their goals. I price my listings right. I focus on small wins every day. Real estate transactions are abundant in market. My ability to succeed. I get stronger through each step. I'm a master of every situation. My confidence is unshakable with living integrity. I always have productive thoughts. I take action to protect my body. I start each day with abundance of energy. I am task-oriented. I set clear priorities daily. I know what I want and I get it. I attract and enjoy greater financial abundance each day. My gratitude gives me the limit financial success. I think prosperous thoughts. I am prosperous. I handle my money wisely and I profit every day. Taking action is easy for me. I am eager to start each day. I enjoy being debt-free. I exercise daily. I enjoy helping my clients succeed. I eat healthy foods. I am a real estate expert. My SOI expects me to be a real estate expert. I am a professional. I am financially independent. I earn commission with ease helping others. I have solutions. Prospering is good for my business. I call expires and sell my own. Prospering is easy for me. I enjoy buying on SOI. He earns back to my enthusiasm. I use technology to see. I get mentally stronger than we call it mate. I am an authentic salesperson. I know how to succeed. I keep positive, exciting, fun, productive, wealth, have an old friend.
Morning. Good morning. Morning.
morning.
Good morning.
How is everyone today?
Good.
Great.
Good, good. So real quickly, you guys, for those of you who haven't signed up for Mike, if you're still planning on going, we still can get you the pricing that we can get at the $195. So if you haven't done that yet, get signed up because it'll be an awesome event. I'm excited about it. And then also the Unleash the Power Within event tickets. If you're wanting these at this price, it's by the end of this month. So make sure that you get it. It's executive seat, VIP seating, I think, for the price of executive. So just know that you guys are gonna have, and especially at this event, you don't wanna be further back. So if you're gonna go to a TR event, that is, don't pass up that opportunity. And you can buy it at that price. You don't necessarily have to go to West Palm Beach. She'll let you buy for a future event too at that price. So just know that. Okay, highly recommend it. And then we also are gonna be doing another prospecting call around July 27th. It's a Thursday night, I believe, from 5 to 7. Oh, sorry, we're doing 4 to 6, right?
We'll get back to you on that.
Yeah.
Well, I think George and John said
4 to 6.
4 to 6.
So we're gonna do it from 4 to 6. George and John will both be there. So it's a great time for you guys to come and learn from the masters themselves, I guess. So, any gratitudes or victories? Okay, well, we have a small group. We could go around real quickly like we used to do. So, Linda, start us out.
Oh man.
Gratitude.
Gratitude. I'm thankful for the buyers I have because I'm getting them under contract. So. But I'm switching to listings, but yeah, I still have to be thankful for them.
Awesome. Good job. Liz?
Well, I'm grateful to be here. I have not been coming for a while, so.
We're glad to have you back.
Yes.
Miss Steph?
I'm grateful for Rick.
Oh,
He
God bless you.
knows.
Yeah, thank you.
Good.
You're amazing.
That's sweet. Lourdes, what are you
I've
grateful
been-
for?
I've been in pain last week, my jaw, my leg. I finished my liver cleansing, so I feel great. So yeah, I'm grateful for that.
Did you do that through Elizabeth?
No,
Oh,
this
okay.
is just a
Different one.
myself. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
6 days.
Good job. Rick?
Oh gosh, grateful for good sleep. I mean, my body, if I ever woke up and wasn't in pain, I think I was dead. But the more, when I get some really good sleep, it's amazing how much better I am in the morning when I can get into a really deep sleep. And obviously, I'm always grateful for you guys here. I mean, you guys give me purpose anyway in what I do during the day, and I thoroughly enjoy that. I thoroughly enjoy teaming with you, helping you, and doing the things that we do. So thank you for that, for giving me that. I appreciate it a lot.
I'm grateful for the energy and what I get back from nature and what I see. How beautiful it is and how much it fires me up and
That's
gets me
right.
excited what we see.
Miss Krista?
I'm thankful for Rick and his support too. We've had some nice talks over the last couple of days and it's really helped me.
Awesome. Good.
Thank you.
Greg?
I'm grateful. A friend recently sent me a video on realizing that everything's my fault, which puts me in control.
I love it.
Yeah, and it's being
Something
at
to talk
peace
about
with everything else. It's okay, but I have to take responsibility for everything.
Yeah. There's a quote from Tony Robbins that I love. It says, "Life happens for me, not to me." Whether it's good or bad, it happens to, for you, not to you. And it's just the way you look at it, the way you perceive things. So I love that. Ruby?
I'm grateful for the attitude of people. I think the attitude here probably more than anywhere else, that everyone is in a go-get-em kind of attitude with everybody tries to help you rather than to hinder you. And I'm grateful for that.
Good point.
Awesome. I love that. Miss Leslie?
Yeah, I'm grateful for the people who let us represent them and help them to sell their homes.
Yes.
Awesome. Annette?
I'm gonna second Ruby on that. I'm grateful that I stumbled into this group of people and that I'm here. I feel great. You guys have a great vibe and have been a lot of encouragement to me at this time in my life. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Jan, is it Cheyenne? Is that how you pronounce it? Okay.
I'm grateful for the position I'm in and for all the opportunities that I've been given and the support that I have here.
Rick?
You know, I'm just grateful to be here with you guys, to get to know you and get to hopefully work with you. You know, we have the best job in the world to be able to do what we do, to help people get into their homes and dream homes. And that's the best part of our life, really. So it's great.
I agree with you, and thank you for being here, Rick. We appreciate your guys' support. So, I guess that was me, right?
Yeah.
So my gratitude is, believe it or not, I actually wrote down in my journal today, is structure. And last week I was in troop for Monday through Wednesday, and a gratitude to you guys. It's kind of fun. They're starting to do the mornings ascents and stuff like that, and actually transitioning into the Mike, I guess you could say the Mike Ferry ways of stuff as well. And it's fun to hear them say, why can't we take on Everest's name instead of troop? Because you guys are obviously leading by example and setting that example for them. So thank you for doing that. That was fun to see. And then just structured, because obviously traveling last week throws you out of your game, and it's a lot better when you can come back and when I didn't realize how structured I actually am and the sanity that it brings to me. So I'm grateful for structure. So I think it's a huge thing. Who's reading the book? Okay. What are your guys' thoughts to it?
Fantastic.
It's amazing, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and we're going to be lucky enough to talk to Steve. He'll be getting back next week, so he's actually at UPW this week. So, thoughts? Steve, what's his last name? He's on Aaron Richardson's team. Him and his wife.
Oh, it's Steve, the bike racer.
Yeah.
Really fit guy.
Oh, nice.
So he's there this week.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
I think he probably left today.
Yeah.
It's tomorrow. So. Okay.
A couple things in there, Linz, for me is I want to kind of go back to Honda and the story of Honda. I've been thinking about it a lot, and I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a mechanic, have been a mechanic, and hearing the journey that he actually took and how many defeats there actually was that was placed before him, how he was laughed at by his colleagues in college when he was designing piston rings, but how he ended up selling that to, well, if you guys have read the story, you know what I'm talking about, but just the fact that he had his factory bombed 3 times, and from those bombing raids, he took the cans that the Americans dropped and took that steel from them, and he called them gifts from Truman, gifts from Truman. I think it's so fascinating because this business relates to that story so well, and how many times that we're defeated. You know, Honda in that process was talking about how his government wouldn't give him concrete to build his factories, to build his products. So what did he do? He goes out, he finds a new way to develop concrete. And so when he was faced with an obstacle, he found a solution. And to me, that's what this is all about. How many times have we faced with our clients that they have a problem? We're that problem solver. We help find the solutions. And we go to the end. And so his story is really relevant to what we do in real estate. And I think it's a fascinating journey that I never realized.
Is that story in this book?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. So reading that part of the story is really fascinating. Now I look at the chapter 6, how to change anything in your life, the science of neuroassociation and conditioning. It's part of NLP, which is a powerful, powerful thing. I'm sure you're going to get into some of that and talk about it, but to me, this chapter is fascinating for those reasons. Mm-hmm. This book is a book to be studied and digest and reviewed as a workbook.
Yeah.
for those reasons.
Rick told me when I got back, he said that we gotta take a chapter at a time, because it is, you guys, it's a lot of information, and not only that, just your ability to dive into it and actually try to implement it. So it's a great read. I encourage you guys all to read it, but thank you, Rick, for sharing. Krista, any thoughts?
I listened to it like 3 times now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just plays in the car when I'm driving now.
Good. Tony.
So, Awakening the Giant Within, I was reading it before I quit my other job to come and do this. I was dabbling in it. And I was in charge of some people in a bomb factory, literally a bomb factory.
Wow.
This airbag, we made the initiator that would explode in your airbag.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, one day I was in front of a bunch of people, and they were like, there was a lot of attitudes and whatnot, and I said, you guys are all, if you all knew how much power you have inside you that you could share with the world, you wouldn't be whining so much. And they went like this almost, and then there's snickers going on and laughing, and I'm like, I gotta get out of here.
That's funny.
Yeah. I love it. It's the power of what we can do, right? So, okay.
So it's fun to read.
How do you think you did it? How do you think, I guess because that goes into this chapter 6, what do you think you did to change?
Oh, wow. I
To be able to
had an
do it.
eruption of change last year.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of it was meeting, some of it was meeting Jill, my new wife, but she inspired a lot of new things and thought processes in me, but you know, I've gone through some personal development stuff too that we've talked about a little bit, but just about taking responsibility and knowing everything's my fault. It's a fantastic statement from Dr. Greg behind me here earlier.
Yeah.
It's perfect, because we are absolutely the product of our own life and our own experiences, not someone else.
Right.
I hear so many excuses and so many reasons why we can't succeed, or I can't succeed, or you can't succeed. You can't do that.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
And it's all bull.
Yeah. I love that you say that. Another thing that I learned through Tony, I know is a big thing, just kind of going along with this statement of, you know, life happens for me, not to me, is we also have to realize that we're the ones who allow what happened to us, right? And so, you know, he talks about it in this chapter, as he talks about, you know, if you're in a bad relationship, you're the one who's allowing it. So it's nobody to blame but yourself, right? And things like that. And it's a great thought. So thank you for sharing that, Tony. So I wanted to talk about chapter 6, you guys. That really hit home with me, and I know we're short on time, but it specifically hit home because of what George specifically talked about on Monday. And sorry, go ahead.
Quick comment. Also, if you're in a bad relationship, it's up to you if you're going to react,
right,
or not.
Create.
Right. I agree. Absolutely.
Doesn't necessarily mean dump it.
Right.
You respond.
How you respond to it.
Sure.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
So when we're in bad relationships, and that could even be with a client, we realize it's a poisonous, toxic relationship. It's not going anywhere. Are we going to be a victim of it and complain about them and make them the problem, or are we going to figure out what attracted us to them in the first place, what it was they saw in us that would make us an easy mark, and then we can create.
It's interesting to say, I listened to something from Tony yesterday, and he said, you know, are you looking at it from a perspective of what energy have I created to attract that energy, right? Or are you looking at it of like you said, blaming them and, you know, not moving forward with it? So I like that. Okay. So chapter 6 talks about, like Rick said, how to change anything. And if you go to the event, he calls it the 6 steps to massive change. And just wanted to quickly give you guys those 6 steps because we are short on time. But he said the first one, I just want to read this quote here at the beginning of it. And it says, "The beginning of a habit is like an invisible thread, but every time we repeat that act, we strengthen the strand. Add to it another filament, is that it? Until it becomes a great cable and binds us invaluably through thought and act." So basically just stating, right, every action that we take becomes a habit, and the more we continue to do it, the more we add to that, right, or we strengthen that habit.
Yeah, I mean, that's so true, and that's the very reason we do practicing of the scripts and the things over and over, but adding to another filament to the process. Each time we do something and experience something over and over and over, it creates a natural process and becomes an unbreakable approach because it's immediate and it's subconscious, which is 90% of who we are. So that statement there, it's just line upon line, precept upon precept. It's being able to master the scenario.
Absolutely.
That is a powerful, powerful comment.
It is. I agree. He goes on to say here, he says, if you and I want to change our behavior, there is only one effective way to do it. We must link unbearable and immediate sensations of pain to our old behavior and incredible and immediate sensations of pleasure to our new one. And then later on he goes on to say, we know consciously or unconsciously that this neural pathway will relieve their pain and take them to some level of pleasure in the normal. So basically he's saying the only way that most people will change is if they create pleasure to it, right? Instead of that. And he talks about that at the event. He talks about pain versus pleasure. Do you move towards pain or do you move towards pleasure? And oftentimes, even when I'm coaching, I'll ask people, okay, are we going to write an accountability for pleasure? Or are we going to write accountability for pain? The majority of people move towards pain, right? Or away from pain. And so it just is a thought in regards to that. So the 6 steps, the reason why I want to go over them is I thought it was huge in regards to what George talked to us about on Monday and setting our goals. And I've been thinking about that, and I don't know how many of you actually took time to journal after he went through that with us, but he says, so the first step is decide what you really want and what's preventing you from having it now. Okay, so take a second right now. What's one thing you really want and is what's preventing you from doing it? Whether it's in your business, whether it's in personal life, is there something you want to do? Do you want to travel? What's preventing you from actually doing that? In here he says, we've got to remember that we get whatever we focus on in life. If we keep focusing on what we don't want, we'll have more of it. The first step to creating any change is deciding what you do want so that you have something to move toward. Okay. The second step, he says, associate pain to changing now, or to not changing now, and massive pleasure to the experience of change now. So he said there's two steps to this process. Step 1 is ask yourself pain-inducing questions, such as, what will this do? What will this cost me if I don't change this now?
So in other words, it's reversing the scenario that most of us think.
Right. Yeah, he says that most
Absolutely
people,
reversing.
right, the way that we can really get massive change in, whether it's we're working with a client or whether it's, I mean, I thought of it from a first sell by owner experience, right? Taking an overpriced listing, giving them what they want versus doing the opposite and actually telling them what pain it could actually cause for them. So pain-inducing questions. The second step to this one is you got to ask yourself pleasure questions. Okay, so really to create change, you have to relate pain to it first. What will this cost me? And then the second step to it is, if I do, how will I feel about myself? Was a question that he asked, right? If I do this, how will I feel about myself? So how can I create massive pleasure to the pain that I just did? He said, without us doing these 2-step processes, we won't create ultimate change, right? Most people will do the pain, or they move out of pain to get out of it, so they'll move towards the pleasure, but then they don't have that lasting change because they don't immediately relate that pleasure that can continue because of it. Right? He talked about a story, I don't know for those of you who read it, is he talked about individuals who quit smoking, right? There was a group of individuals who quit smoking, and they did it for a little bit, but they didn't continue to do it, right? Because they didn't now reinforce it, right, with a positive theme. Then he talked about a group of individuals who were smoking, quit smoking, and reinforced it with the growth of contribution, being able to go out and, you know, tied it to their identity, some of them did, in regards to, you know, there was an individual who chewed tobacco, and he said the identity that you have as far up in the company as you are doesn't look great, right? And he chose to reinforce it with that identity. What identity is that going to give me in my business? Right? And the ability to do that. So the third step to creating massive change is interrupt the pattern. We have to interrupt our pattern to make sure that we're doing that. So my question to you guys is, what's really holding you back? What's that limiting belief that you continue to replay in your head? Is it that I'm not good enough? Is it that you're not, right, that you don't have the skill set to go out and take a listing? What limiting belief do you have in your head that's really holding you back? And then how is it that you can interrupt the pattern?
Sometimes it's confusion.
Okay.
I've taken on so many ways to generate business, I don't know what to do next.
Okay.
That can just stymie me. Like, I can sit there for half an hour trying to figure out what to do next.
Love that. No. What are some other ways that you guys?
Just overanalyze what we say, how we react to things the client might say.
Fear of the unknown.
Overanalyzing.
Fear of the unknown. It's interesting you say that, Shannon, because he said the majority of it is because of fear of something, right? So how is it that we can interrupt that pattern? What are some ways that you interrupt it?
Just do it. Sometimes you just have to dive right into it and take it on, and know that the journey is a journey you must take. But you know, on the last one, it's kind of interesting. He underlined now. It's making the decision now, and knowing that, you know, in the previous chapters it was talking about knowing we're going to screw up. Okay, it's going to happen. Just do it.
Yeah.
And learn from it. So it is the fears, and it goes right into these steps of making the decision now to do it, and actually going in and knowing there's going to be a result. Either way, you're going to learn, so it's not a loss or a defeat. It's just something learned.
He does, and he says the way that we'll create that change is we have to create leverage, right, with individuals. So what are some ways that we can create leverage in our business? What are some ways that you can create leverage with a seller or a buyer? Okay, I love that stuff. Knowledge.
Oh, okay, I guess I was thinking something else, but like for my listing, I took 2 offers and I door knocked with that saying, here are other families that missed out on this listing. Are you thinking about something?
So using sound bites.
Yeah.
Okay.
So making it not about me and making it about them has been a big change for me in how I feel about phone calls and at doors. What can I do for you? How can we help? How can we make this a better situation with FSBOs? How can we help this be less painful for you?
Greg?
More numbers.
Yeah. Being
If
able
I talk
to
more people, that's more leverage.
Yeah. More numbers, and I would say even using your numbers, like Steph said, the knowledge of the market, right? Being able to create that leverage to actually give them the information that they're needing. He says one of the best ways to interrupt someone's pattern is to do things they don't expect. Things that are radically different from what they've experienced before. Right? So what are some things you can do differently? Or we always ask that, what value do you bring to the table that the other agent doesn't? What are some things that they can expect from you that might be different from the other individual, right? One of the things he talks about the story, and I loved it, he talked about a guy who claimed he was a chocoholic, and he was proud to be a chocoholic, right? And he said, you know, most people will tell him to quit eating chocolate, and most dietitians and all those things would have told him to quit eating chocolate. He was at the event, and Tony said, I want you to eat chocolate for 4 straight days, and you can only drink 4 glasses of water a day. And so for those of you who understand, right, sugar makes you want to drink more, and he could only have 4 glasses of water. So by the 2nd day of eating chocolate, this guy was ready to puke on Tony, and Tony told him, eat another piece of chocolate. And he looked at, somebody handed him a piece of chocolate, and he opened it up, and he wanted to look at Tony and be like, you're out of your mind. And Tony said, eat the chocolate. Eat the piece of chocolate, right? And so they're just, in regards to our habits, what are some ways that you can do it is, more or less, right, reverse psychology. And you do the very thing to get over it. And it was just interesting, he goes on to say, he goes, most people would have told him to quit. I told him to do it more. And because I told him to do it more, he found an associated pleasure with quitting versus the pain of quitting, right, in the story. So
can you tell that to drug addicts too?
He said he did.
They do that to themselves. Go for it, quit.
He said he did. So the fourth step, you guys, creating massive change, is create an empowering alternative. So again, just going back to it, he basically says, is making sure that we're actually associating something, right, that's going to move us from pain to pleasure. So reinforcing that habit, basically. And he says here, the failure by most people to find an alternative way of getting out of pain and into the feelings of pleasure is the major reason most people's attempts to change are only temporary. Many people get to the point where they have to change, where the change is a must, because they link so much pain to their old pattern and they link pleasure to the ideal of changing. They even interrupt their patterns, but after that, they have nothing to replace the old pattern. So the step is making sure that we're creating something to actually replace that pattern so that you're not falling back into it, right? And then step 5 is condition the new pattern until it's consistent. So what are some ways in real estate that we condition our patterns?
Well, comment that it went through, or something that went through my mind as you was saying this, is when I was weightlifting, in order to get my maximum effect on weightlifting, you had to change your patterns. You had to change your workup because it took you to that next level. So you were constantly changing to get to that higher level. And the result is strength, speed, fitness, all the benefits.
Yeah.
So in our real estate, I think that we have to be learning, first off, learn as many scripts as you can, but get down so well that you're bringing you into it.
Mm-hmm. Little by little, he talks about
Correct.
that, right? And the timing of this is making sure that he talked about a dolphin, a story with a dolphin and a trainer, and he said, just little by little, they got him to jump higher.
That's it.
And it's just the consistent, little by little, you guys, adding to those skill sets, doing the role plays, coming to practice, making sure you're on the phone consistently, right? Those are the ways that we condition that habit, is doing it. So one of the things that he says under conditioning is, he said, conditioning is critical. This is how we produce consistent results. Once again, remember that any pattern of emotional behavior that is reinforced or rewarded on a consistent basis will become conditioned automatically. Any pattern that we fail to reinforce will eventually dissipate. Greg.
On number 3, interrupt the pattern, it just hit me on Mike Ferry's listing presentation script where it says, one of 3 things will happen. You'll list your home with me, you'll decide not to list your home with me, or I'll decide not to take your listing. Anyone is fine. I have never had the courage to say that in a listing presentation, and I'm going to do that because I think most agents won't do that, and I'll see what happens.
Okay.
Just want some accountability.
I'll just throw it out.
There you go.
That's
right.
Now you go to report to us.
I'm going to ignore her.
I think you should answer it, Greg.
You said you wanted to do it. I'm just holding you accountable.
She's trying to
Love it.
And what will I get if I do it?
Listing maybe.
A chocolate bar. A listing. Right.
So what you got to realize with that, I just want to add to that a little bit. When you take away the threat of having to do something and you throw it out, that it doesn't matter either way. It was fascinating in a listing presentation last night. I says, guys, look, we want your listing. We don't have to have it. So you can list with us or not.
Well, that's a different way of going around it.
But it's basically
it's
back to the same thing. And what you got to do is take away the threat of them having to do something.
Yeah.
And once you should have seen the weight come off their shoulders. So it's just our assumption and perception about what that is. That that's a good thing by doing that. And it really makes them comfortable. Because they know they'll have to.
Tom.
I saw something on, I can't remember who it was on YouTube, where it said, the person said, prospect like you're a millionaire, you don't care whether you're gonna get their business or not.
Yeah. I like that.
That's what it reminded me of,
Yeah,
that's what you said.
yeah, no question.
We'd like it, but we don't need it. What are you gonna do? We'd like your business.
It was so empowering to watch how they fell into rapport after that happened.
Yeah.
It was fascinating.
I love it. So the sixth step, you guys, so the sixth step, I want to get us through this, is the sixth step to creating lasting change is just make sure that you test it, right? So he says here, let's review what we've accomplished. You've decided upon a new pattern of emotion or behavior that you desire. You've gotten leverage on yourself to change it. You've interrupted the old pattern. You've found a new alternative, and you've conditioned it until it's consistent. The only step left is to test it to make sure that it's going to work in the future. Okay, so one of the things I would challenge you guys to do, sit down today and just think of one behavior in your business. I mean, like I said, it was the second half to the year, you guys. Think of one behavior in your business and take yourself through this 6-step process. What is it going to cost you if you continue to do it? What are you going to get if you change it? Right, Greg, the listing, right? What behavior, or I guess more or less, how are you going to interrupt that pattern? And then how are you going to create that new alternative? So if you continue to do that, what pleasure are you going to get from it, right? Make sure that you're reinforcing it with that good habit. Okay, so today I challenge you to take one behavior in the business that you know you need to change and go through the 6-step process, okay? Awesome. And then next week, you guys, for those of you who are reading the book with us, let's go through chapter 8. I know that one was a pretty lengthy. 8. Yep. Okay. It's a good book, you guys. I would highly recommend you get it. I would highly recommend you go to the event too. So, the book is good, but it's nowhere compared to the event itself. I was gonna make us do the little. He goes like this, and he says, "There's a limiting. When you have a limiting belief, you just swing your arm in the circle, and then you say, my limiting belief is," and then he goes, "and the new belief." We didn't get to that part. What's that? Yeah, that's the best part. Then you stuck your finger up your nose, and then you're high-fiving each other. Okay, let's do it. I succeed because I have my goals. I am an optimist. I like talking to people. I know what is important to me. I remember people's names and I I'm talking about real estate. I know consistency is my greatest tool. I like asking questions and listening. I enjoy reading to improve my sales skills. My thoughts lead my emotions and action goals. I focus on my goals daily. My presentation is powerful and persuasive. I improve my skills daily. I am happy. I love the prospecting to speak my business. I see my future as awesome. I love my life. I'm grateful and thankful. I control my thinking. I believe in me. I feel outstanding. I use my beliefs and opportunity daily. I get things done. I provide excellent customer service. I drink water daily. I connect with people. People love me. I love others. I just my daily schedule. I prospect daily. I set appointments daily. I am a master recruiter. I achieve my goals. I'm a real estate rock star. I am passionate about my life. I live every day with purpose. I'm confident in my self skills. I know my destiny. I am healthy and strong. I am powerful. I'm unstoppable. I need positive exciting. Yes.
Morning. Morning. Morning.
Script, guys, stick around for scripts if you're here. Let's do it.